All right, good morning to the HouseSigma team. Thank you so much for joining another HouseSigma fundamental training session. Today, we're going to be focusing on the HouseSigma platform, making sure that you know about all of the key features that it does provide, and talking about some strategies as well. So if you guys are working from a desktop at home in the office, make sure, of course, you're using the HouseSigma website for your day-to-day, I would say, CMAs or listings that you'll be sending out. Make sure you're using this platform. Of course, the app on its own is a fantastic tool, which you want to have uploaded and ready to go whenever you're doing your showings. And we'll just touch on that in just a moment. But let's start off with the home page here on the HouseSigma platform. So the search box is probably going to be your best friend here, right? It's a very, very detailed search engine, and you can pick up any active listings that are currently on the market, and you can really be able to drop pins down as well if you ever want to do some research around an address. Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Regarding the rest of the items here, you got, of course, your watch, community, and area list, which I'll show you how to create if you guys haven't done so already. You have a couple other categories that are pretty cool to pay attention to, right? Sold below bought, right? So this is an interesting one. They sold it for 29% less than what they had purchased it for. So just to give you a little idea of what this means. So in this scenario, they sold it in September for $920. Okay, but they had bought it earlier in the year for $1.3. So it's a significant loss here, right? So these are cool things that you can kind of keep track of. Like, again, let's see in Scarborough, let's see what happened here. So if you really want to study the market, this will really help you to do so. So they sold it September for $125, and they bought it back in April for $1,625. Okay, so these are significant losses. It gives you an idea of what is truly happening in the market. So you see these numbers, they're quite high. If it was more of a seller's market, and if it was what we were seeing maybe in January, February, even before that, these percentages will be a lot less. Okay, but also you can kind of pay attention to the areas that is popping up as well to see which areas saw the most decline. Other things are the gains, right? So you're seeing some percentage gains here from market appreciation and location and property types. But this is what I really wanted to get to, was the featured listing. As you guys know, if you guys do sign that minimum 1.5% listing, whether it's personal or company lead, you do get it featured on the HouseSigma platform and website. So one part of that featured is on the home page. It does show up for users to look at, no matter what they're searching for. So in this scenario, it gets you a lot more eyes on your listing than the competitors. So send me an email, attach the listing agreement, and attach the listing as well. And then I'll get it approved and featured for you guys. Other categories: newly listed, just sold, rental investments, all great, best for schools, price growth. So a lot of great different categories here to go through. Spend some time and always have a solid understanding of what is going on in your local market that you're focusing on. Okay. Now let's jump into the map search. And before we do that, actually, let's go back to the home page. So remember I was talking about dropping that pin. So let's say I wanted to drop a pin on 12 York Street. The pin gets dropped, and from here now, I can start working on maybe an analysis, right? Maybe I want to work on condos at 12 York Street that are 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms that have sold recently. So once I've dropped that pin, I know the exact location. I can zoom in, so I know the exact location it is, and then I can check, let's say, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And let's say I want to check what's sold in the last 30 days, if anything. We had 1 sale 16 days ago, right? Or if I want to check last 90 days, there were 6, and so on and so forth on that side. So dropping a pin is pretty sweet to do, okay? It really gives you a much better understanding of where the property is located and how to do the CMA for the surrounding area very, very quickly. So other things you have on this map search, of course, you can filter it by price point, you can filter it by bedrooms, bathrooms, the parking. You have the open house, because you will get this question quite often about the open houses. Definitely you can search it for it. If your client wanted a basement apartment, let's say with a separate entrance, you have this setup that you can add, the max maintenance fee, and lot frontage. That is the key to understanding the CMA, is the lot frontage whenever you're dealing with a freehold property. So that's why we have that here as well. And square footage is great, especially when you're searching for condos. And most important is the keywords. You want to start using this to your advantage. If you have a client that's looking for, let's say, a property that needs some renovation work, right? Or it needs some sort of rehab work and they're looking for a deal, because of that, there's ways you can use the keyword search, right? Because most agents, not all, but most agents will put in some keywords in there that you'll come across when it comes to the construction side, right? So sometimes, let's just see what comes up when you put builder as an example. Okay, let me zoom out. Usually it's going to be a freehold property. Okay, so these are all the ones that have the keyword builder in it. Let's just see what we're dealing with, right? So if you go down to the search box here, it says attention first-time homebuyers, renovators, investors, builders. So these are your keywords there that you can start using to see, okay, what shape is this property in? And why is the listing agent feel that this is great for a builder? And you can analyze it that way. So it helps filter out quite a bit here, okay? You also have your other property types that you can choose. You can filter it between detached all the way down to vacant land. There's a note here on link properties. I just want to remind you what a link property is. So these are properties that share a foundation wall. Okay, so above ground, they're going to look like a complete detached property, not connected, but below ground, below grade, they do share a foundation wall. Okay, those are linked properties. And then you got vacant land as well that's in there for you. Condo town, condo apartments are pretty self-explanatory. You can toggle between for sale and for lease. Nice and convenient there. So make sure you guys are using this section correctly, right? So if you're looking for active listings, this will be clicked off. But if you want to clean up the list here when you're looking for sold, turn off the active listings. So it just shows you the sold. Okay. And then you got delisted as well. So if you want to see what is going on in the market in the last 30 days, what's been coming off, usually you'll see terminated listings here. Okay. So you can take care of that. Other things are your watched area. So you can create a very specific watched area list. And you can label them, and now you'll get emails directly with this filter setup within that watched area list. So you can keep up to date if you're really looking for a specific type of property to pop up, you can set it up that way. You also can zoom in here. If you guys start zooming in a little bit closer, you'll see the map starts to change a bit. You'll see a few little dots pick out. And then these are, regardless of what you're searching for, it shows you the sold properties going back 20 plus. It's guy's bought in 2004, 275. So it's a pretty cool feature to really understand what's been the growth in the neighborhood very quickly. And then you also got these survey lines that are there, show you what the lot size and lot looks like and the shape of each lot. Gives you a better understanding of what's going on here. So that's the zoom in picture. If you're able to zoom in, you'll see it starts to populate. All right, now let's go to my favorite part here. Let's actually click on a listing and see what's going on with it. So as you open up the listing, of course, you got the address, property type, location, list price, and then you have the estimated value here, okay? With the estimated value, you guys got to keep in mind, it's just a starting point, right? We're looking at data for the last 6 to 12 months generally. And when it comes to the final estimated value, it may be up or down depending on market conditions, right? So markets shift very quickly, especially if you're in the Toronto market. And the estimated value may not be fast enough to keep up. Okay, so you still got to run your own analysis and you still got to do your own research. But this is an approximate value of what this property should be. Okay, so always take into consideration the bedroom count, bathrooms, parking. You'll also take into consideration the lot size, square footage, property type, and also the distance to the subject property. So these are the comparables that it is using to determine the fair market value. And you can see it gets adjusted up or down depending on how well it compares to the subject property. See the check marks up, down, pretty sweet. And you can also see the sold comparables in here. You can switch and see the rental comparables as well. So that is the estimated value section. Listing history, also very cool to look at. Let me try to find one with a little bit more of an extensive listing history. So you can see here with listing history, it really picks up what this property was before, especially when where you see a custom house or something new or renovated. Let's take a look at what it looked like back in 2020. Such a powerful tool here. So you can see it was an old bungalow that they flipped and they did a custom build on. 2 actually, looks like. And this is the finished product. So they took the old bungalows, tore them down, and built the new custom homes. Especially for renovated properties, you want to see what was finished or updated since the last listing. You can flip back and forth between the 2 listings and see what's been going on. You also get the size estimate, the SIG estimate for the square footage. You also get all your other basic items straight off of the MLS, including the description. But the unique feature here is market demand. So this is, again, part of the algorithm that tells you what the market demand is in this current location with this current market. So right now you can see the tab has shifted over to the buyer's market. For the longest time, this tab would not move. It was all the way on the right side here. But now it's in the buyer's market. As you go through, you got some other key details. You got Sigma estimate, you got the estimated date that it did the estimate on. The rental estimate is great for your investor clients if they want to have a quick idea of what the rental income is going to be. Rental yield, rental days on market, and other key features here are your mortgage calculator. Very, very cool to use, especially with your investor clients to use the cash flow analysis. So based on this, if you're using this, you can really adjust and it will tell you what your break-even point is based on the cost involved, right? So if you throw in your monthly property tax costs and maybe some additional maintenance costs, and then you can analyze that based on the down payment that you need. Okay, and you got the rate, amortization term, and of course, ultimately the price of the property. Other key details here, straight off of the MLS, nothing too fancy, but I do love the school information, right? You can really pick out all the school info, rating, distance. It's all there. So you don't have to do any of that research ahead of time. It's all right there in the app. Moving on to one of my favorite parts of the platform here is your community stats, right? So you always, whenever you're doing your CMAs, this is where we find the information for the 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year change. You get your median days on market, median price. So you can really do a deep dive on the graphs and stats for this neighborhood. So it gives you the breakdown of the percentages of property type in this pocket, demographics, everything you need to know from population on that block, average age, renters, immigration, everything's there for you. Super easy. It's all there. So we got household income. And then we got, let's say, construction built before 1960. These are all your built days. Type of occupation. Trades and transport, sales and service. And then you got your commute method. Driver, passenger, public transit. It's pretty sweet. Honestly, we got it all in one spot. Makes life so much easier. So you can also click on the view more stats, and you can kind of do a detailed research on really any pocket here that we have. Mainly in Ontario, then you could drop in a more specific neighborhood, an area, and then property type. Look back to the last 15 years, 10, 5. You can see that Toronto sold and active listings. See the absorption rate here as well. So the red will have been a seller's market, buyer's market is in blue, green is in a balance. So you can see right now we're heavily into a buyer's market in this neighborhood. So if we went back to February of this year, you can see that was the peak market, was in February of this year. And then we saw the decline start to happen. Boom. You could check that for any neighborhood. It's a pretty sweet setup. Going back to the maps, there's a couple last things I wanted to show you guys. School information. So make sure you pop that school button, and then you can do only show score above 7. And then it'll actually outline the area the school falls into. So if you ever do need to set up a watch list or watch zone, you can really outline it exactly with this. Makes life a lot easier. And make sure you're using HouseSigma to do your comparable sold as well. So as you're going through and you want to determine the fair market value of a property, of course, the CMA is going to be your most important item. So let's just choose this semi as an example. So we'll use that as our main marker point. And we'll go semi-detached, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And then when I look at the lot size, I want to stick to the lot size as well. So 31 is the frontage. So let's cap the frontage at 40. And then let's hit sold. Let's see what pops up. And we'll turn off active. And we'll see in the last 90 days, there hasn't been anything within that area that was sold. A few further west that are comparable. Similar property types. You can see you can pop these in your comparable sold. Now, that was the reason you always want to use that pin option, So you know exactly where the property was. So 1270 Lawrence Avenue West. So when you drop it, now there's a pin there. So when you're doing your comparables, you can see the distance from the pin as well. Super easy. You can see these guys are listed at 940, and we see comparables selling at 885, 915, 885, 845, 950. So you can see they're almost priced right, but they're still a little bit high. There's room for adjustments. Use this to your advantage, guys. Make sure that you always have it the listing preloaded on your app and phone or iPad whenever you're doing your showings. It's all there. And when you're doing the listing presentations, make sure these tabs are all open to showcase your client what you're able to do for them, right? And how their property compares to others. So please drop in the chat box if you guys do have any questions. We'll be glad to answer them. All right, let's have a look here. So Amir is asking, if you go through home evaluation tab on the main page and type in the address, you'll see 3 estimates from low to high, which is normally different from the estimation that is shown on the listing page. Could you please explain the reason? Some of the clients go through both and get confused by getting 4 different estimates on a single property on your website. You can check out 314 John Street, unit 369 as an example. So let's have a look, and this is good. We could definitely bring it up to the dev's attention here, just in case there is something that we should be aware of. So 314 John Street. All right. 369. Okay. So they have it as 832. So it's low on the 7, high on the 846. Okay. And let's see what the question was again. So you're getting 3 estimates from low to high with normal different estimation is shown on the listing page. Could you please explain? Okay, let's now go look at it on the actual listing. 314 John Street. 369. Assuming it's an active listing. Ah, I see that. That is a major difference. Oh yeah. That is a major difference. Yeah, I'll definitely make that note to the devs. And guys, if you ever do spot things like this, definitely send an email to support@housesigma.com. We definitely will put it on the docket to see what sort of parameters we can adjust to make these numbers a lot more accurate here. Because based on this list price, the estimated price, and what I'm seeing here, it's a pretty big difference. And Amir, appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'll have this sent to Schumann and Reed to see what they can do about it. So I was asking, hey, how far can we go from the subject property for comps? Generally, you want to stay within the same code, right? So if it's a W09, W03, W02, whatever it is, try to stay within the same code, right? If you have to expand, don't expand more than 1 code out. That's the main rule of thumb. You want to try to find properties within the same vicinity. So going back to the map here as an example, you'll find the codes to the location right there. Try to stay within that if possible. If there's nothing coming up, then you can start expanding the sold history timeline to see what else comes up a little bit closer. Yeah, if you should definitely stick to the same area code, which is the community, if it's possible. If you see that there's nothing in the last 6 months, then you have to expand the range and then make adjustments on price, whether you're expanding into an area that has a better quality of neighborhood or worse. Okay, so as a perfect example would be, and this is just an example here, I'm going to show you guys. So let's say you have Black Creek here going into Western Road, right? So let's say the subject property is somewhere around this side. If comps are a little bit closer to Western Road, which you know is not the best neighborhood, you would have to make the adjustments on the lower side, okay? But if you're going further south to find at something a little bit more comparable and closer, then it's gonna be a little bit more pricier, and that needs to be adjusted as well. But generally, it's very unlikely you won't find something in the last 6 months that is comparable to the subject property. That's really the exception and worst case scenario type of system you should look at. Perfect. Was there any other questions? Appreciate you guys coming out and asking the great questions today. Appreciate it. Reach out if you guys do need anything else, and I'll see you guys on next week's call. Take care.